part of our evolution of consciousness has been unconscious capitalism. It's been an unconscious model where people's chi is leveraged in the name of the almighty dollar, but it's not the almighty dollar. What's almighty is the heart and the intention behind anything we do. That's the almighty.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. Josh, welcome to my show, my friend.
Hey, this is perfect divine timing, yes? Feels like it to
Incredible.
me.
After all the somersaults to get us here, we are finally sitting down. I really wish we were in person maybe someday, but I'll take this for now.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Tell us where you are and tell us about what's going on in your crazy world. I love your journey, your story. It's a lot like mine with your roots in personal training, your burnout, your crisis, your pivot. I love it all. So tell us where you are and, you know, what you want to cut to tell people about you today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, currently in this moment, I'm a soul inhabiting a body in Austin, Texas, on a rock in the middle of outer space in a vast, expansive universe that I try to make meaning out of.
Wow.
That's really where I'm at. But I guess professionally, I'm the host of the Wellness and Wisdom podcast. I'm the CEO of Wellness Force Media, which is a conscious media company. And so like you, I answer this question through my business. And my question is maybe similar yet different, but I'm guessing it's probably similar to yours. And that question is, how do I live my life well? How do I have true wellness? How do I embody true wellness in my life? And how can I hold it all? How can I have it all? And how can I be the kind of person that can really be the container and the space for all of that? You know, I call it the wellness pentagon. I've learned from Paul, as you have. He's a mentor that we have to mention, obviously, on this podcast. And he taught me about the quadrant, which is the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And through my own lessons and learning in life, and through now what I teach and what I put out in the world, it's really a pentagon. I believe wellness is a pentagon. It's the roof of financial and spiritual, and the walls of emotional and mental, and the floor of physical. So that's me in a really tiny nutshell. I'm also a dad, and I'm a partner, and I'm all the things, trying to make my very best loving way in this world before I expire.
Wow. I'll say that I've never had that answer before. Fantastic. I love it. And you know, I was dipping my toe in the water of Austin myself. I know you're there now. It's a popular place for people that's kind of in our
Yeah.
line of work to be.
Yeah.
And you've got such a full plate. You're how old is Noah now? 3, 2?
It's actually Nova.
Oh, sorry,
N-O-V.
Nova.
That's okay.
Excuse me.
Noah's a great name. That's a nice biblical name.
Sorry.
Nova, Novah. He is almost 2 years old, which is like, wow, I can't even imagine how many bricks have been stacked since then. Yeah, that's wild to say.
And you've got another one on the way, and you don't know the gender, right?
Right. We're going to go organic, where we just, see what grows in the field.
Mm-hmm,
I'm going to support my lady as she births life into the world.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, I love how, your story, as I mentioned in the intro, you have personal training in your history. And then basically you hit a burnout because I want to share this with the audience because this is a very common thing when you're in a soul sucking job. And so I've heard a lot of people refer to it as the prostitute archetype, kind of trying to pay the bills. You refer to it as something else though, which is cool. I don't know, but it's basically the same idea of, you're just, and we've all done it. I've done it too.
Yeah.
But you, not only did you pivot successfully, but you did so successfully financially, which is hard to do because we've all heard, Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss, right? And do what you love, the money will follow. That's not always true. It's really not always true. I know a lot of people are doing things they love and they can't make any money at it. Now we can probably get into a whole bunch of reasons why.
Yeah.
But I guess it's safe to say, are doing what you love in the wellness space, your amazing podcast and everything that you do, and you're making a living at it, and a decent living, I might imagine. Do you want to share with us any tips on that? Like, what really is the key of following your bliss, but also making financial bliss?
Wow. So there was a model I came across in the past, and I don't know the exact name of it, but it was essentially a success Venn diagram. And we've all seen and experienced what Venn diagrams are. It's
Mm-hmm.
when, three or more shapes collide, and in the center of those there is a confluence where on one circle it's what does the market need, on one circle is what are you good at, and on the other circle is what do you love to do. And so if you can stack all three circles together, then in the center of that, there's exactly what you are meant to do in this life. And for a long time, I just liked connecting with people, and I liked learning about how I can live my life well. I can remember there was a time when I was super young, probably like 4 or 5, and I always used to feel this existential weight that I think so many of us as human souls feel. And that existential weight felt like grief and sorrow and pain. And I would look around, and, I was raised by a mom who was struggling with bipolar, and my dad was not home. He had some issues of his own. And so I just was like, why is life so challenging? What is all this suffering about? Why do you adults treat each other like shit? What's this all about? Like, why are y'all so terrible to each other? And so I've always wanted to answer that question. How do I live my life well? How do we live our life well? And so I thought, okay, I love connecting. I love learning. I really want to get questions answered for myself. What does the market need? And of course, that led me to personal training, because I used to be 280 pounds. I had a lot of health issues in my life, chronic sinusitis, terrible gut health from, 10, 20 years of antibiotics. Like, I've really run the gamut, the full spectrum on experiencing suffering in the human body. And so when I got to this place of becoming a personal trainer, I thought, aha, that's it. That's my way out. Like, that's my ticket. I'll just shine light on other people and look the part. But meanwhile, I didn't know that Spirit had really interesting lessons planned for me, where after a year in training for 10 years, I realized that when I was shining this flashlight on my clients and when I was shining light on other people, the dark part of myself stayed dark. That's what happens when you shine a light on other people. And that's the spiritual bypassing that a lot of trainers, coaches, and therapists go through.
Deflecting, basically. Yeah.
Deflecting.
I
But,
know it well.
yeah, but it's coming from a place of wanting to do well. So it's a very noble endeavor, right? Being a coach or a therapist or a teacher of any kind. But the deeper work, if one is ready to receive it, and it's funny, the Venn diagram is 3, and the Fibonacci sequence is based around 3s, and the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell is based around 3s: separation, initiation, return. I find that the number 3 is quite interesting. We're birthed, we live a life, and then we die.
As is the goddess. The 3 is the number of the goddess.
Okay, so here we are on the Goddess podcast, then on the Awakening Aphrodite, the Goddess podcast. So yeah, in the middle of those 3, what does the market need? What am I good at? And what do I love to do? I think the reason why it's been somewhat successful for me, and I say somewhat because, I can have a multiple 6-figure business, but it's still a business that I'm so entrenched in, and I couldn't just walk away from that business and have another Josh Trent run it at this juncture. Now, maybe in 3 years with what I'm creating, that maybe actually would just turn into a solid yes. And I would just have somebody run the business and I would show up just like we're doing now. But that's to be determined. That's part of me figuring it out, right? With my open heart intention of how do I live my life well, including my business, my health, my family, my intimate relationships, my discovery of life, and my time to be with myself. So I would say the long answer to your short question is I found through my own suffering, and I found through my own pain, that in order for me to be in the center of that Venn diagram, that it was going to be podcasting. And it was a very severe dark night of the soul that I went through in 2014, 2015, that led me to podcasting. So I would say that it was not roses, and it was not something where I was floating along wearing a white cape and I just found myself in a field of daisies quoting Rumi. That was not it. I had to learn through contrast. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was my path to get to where I am now.
And how would you say for people, the dark night of the soul experience is different than just a really bad bump in the road or bad time in your life, or even just a bout of depression? Like, how did you know it was something like more significant?
I don't think I knew it at the time. I think it's really easy for you and I with our life experience
Hmm.
and with the people we've worked with and just going through our own extreme challenges. The only way that I can have a understanding of what rock bottom truly is or a dark night of the soul truly is if I know what the highest state of bliss is and the highest state of consciousness is. And also I have to have other experiences that teach me what pain is, what suffering is. In other words, I have to have a big palette of experience, of life experience. I'm 42 now, about to be 43. So I don't know if I could have answered this question for you in my late
Hmm.
20s. I don't think I could have answered it with as much intelligence or honesty. So I think the way that I know that I was at my dark night is when I look back, my beliefs about what I was willing to let go of and what I was willing to sacrifice feel the exact same way in my body right now as they did when I was experiencing them.
Mm.
It's funny. I was literally just talking to a friend today about this. So it's cool timing. You asked me this question. And I think all of us can relate to this, where in retrospect, when we turn our head and we look back on our life timeline, we know when it was the darkest night of our soul, but we might not know when we were going through it. We might have to have the contrast of time to teach us that it was truly the dark night of our soul. And so for me, it was at the Omni Golf Course in La Costa, Carlsbad, California. I was renting a spare room from a friend. I had just launched the podcast. I had broken up with a woman I thought I was going to be with, and I had put my mom in a mental home all in the span of like 6 months. And I got fired from this corporate job. I mean, everything was just falling down. Like it was truly, all the buildings were burning, the wheels fell off the wagon, and I was sitting there going like, okay, God, I know I haven't talked to you really ever. I know I've never had a relationship with you. I don't know why you want me here if my life is supposed to be like this. Because if my life, and I was very genuine in my prayer, and I've read and heard this from many different sources, that if your prayer is genuine and it's coming from your heart and you are being in a state of true suffering and you're genuine about the reprieve that you seek, that spirit will always deliver. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what happened, because I said to God, if you want me to live like this, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to be here. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to have a life on my terms for my dream and my purpose. I will not fucking be a wheel in someone else's machine to feed a dream that I don't believe in ever again. I will not do that. Like I was willing to actually not be on the earth anymore if I had to take that path. And I think that was honestly, it's almost 10 years ago now, 2015. Now we're in 2023. So yeah, it's been 8 years since that time, and it still feels the same in me now
Yes.
as it did then. And I think that's how you know when you're at the dark night of the soul, is your resolve and your concrete emotion and your concrete decision stays the same throughout the test of time.
It's funny. I've heard you say that that was your experience and the not wanting to live thing. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, that was me. I had the same thing because I've talked about that before when I've been on people's shows that, I went through my dark night of the soul and I didn't want to live either. I just didn't want to live it. I just couldn't. And that's what led to my ultimate burnout, which led to me ultimately hiring Paul Check, who was my friend for 3 decades, because I just couldn't. I didn't wanna live anymore. I don't wanna say
Were you in
uh,
finance? Were you in a different world?
no, I was
What?
actually running a health and wellness club in
Hilarious.
north of Boston, but what
Look
it
at the
was,
irony of that.
well, that's the thing, right? And I'm sure you can relate as can many
Yeah.
people who are in the service industry, and we go back to our intentions of to help people,
Yeah.
particularly when like you, I had my own health problems, and I kind of got myself out of it myself by my own research and healthy lifestyle stuff. So when you have something that can help people, you're driven to help, right? Of course, you want to
Yes.
help. And then of course it's working, so they want more of it. But in the meantime, I was going down. I mean, I just
Yeah.
there was no boundary. There was no taking care of Amy. There was, and then of course I call myself a reforming people pleaser because I couldn't say no. There was no, like, no, I have to take care of me thing.
Yeah.
So basically, this beautiful thing that I created for everyone else was destroying me. And the irony is, I lost a lot of my own health. And
Mm,
now, what's it been? Gosh, what, 3 years? I closed it at the pandemic. I didn't reopen,
yeah.
and it's been a slow crawl. Well, maybe it wasn't slow crawl, but anyway, I think I'm back at my fighting game. And just had to pivot. That's what started the whole podcast and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like you, I've been an avid learner, but I guess my point is to people that I think, everything's relative, as far as how it's a dark night of the soul. And in retrospect, certainly yes. But for you, when all the wheels fell off the car and you had the wife and the job and the mother, and that's pretty obvious, right? But for
Yeah.
me, it was like, all right, I've gone through a lot of crap in my life, as most people. But when I knew I just didn't want to even live anymore, and I had a lot to live for. I mean, I'm very privileged, more than the majority of the world's population, that's for sure.
Mhm.
But why would I not want to live anymore? Is it that bad? Yeah, it's that bad. I mean, I was a slave to what
It's that
everything.
bad. It's that bad because that was the experience that you and I think that's the experience that some people just absolutely karmically, or it's part of their dharmic path for them to just experience that massive chasm between true unconditional love and absolute and total agony and pain. It's funny you asked me earlier, how do I know if I was at my lowest low, if I was at a true dark night of the soul? A true dark night of the soul happens probably multiple times. I mean, at least one big time for everyone, but I would say it's probably more like every 3 to 7 years for most people that I know, for
Mhm,
people that
mhm.
are growing and expanding for the most part. And yeah, like it's interesting that you came from health and I came from health as well. But my journey to health was because I wanted to be healthy myself. And here I am again at 42, about to be 43, learning about sleep deprivation with infant and
Yeah.
a toddler, and growing the business and expanding and taking on more. And I know that the answers are not outside of myself. Everything I need is already within me. It's so funny. If you would have told me that 10 years ago, I'd have been like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
All the answers are within me. That doesn't make any sense. But it makes perfect sense to me now, because everything that I go through and that we all go through on planet Earth is just a series of successive awareness points that we already knew what we already knew. And when we already find out what we already knew, then we realize that we were the ones, I was the one who was blocking the innate wisdom, the innate intelligence that I already embodied, that was just waiting to poke through the dirt like a fucking plant trying to get sunshine. And I think that's really what this journey is about here, for me at least. That's my own experience. I'm not like this esoteric woo-woo spiritual guy. I'm a very practical guy, but I also know that I cannot thrive, I cannot survive without a connection to God, without a true understanding of what a real relationship with spirit actually is. And I'm constantly tested in that regard, So that's a long adjacent point to, I think, what we were really talking about was this path that we choose as, I don't want to say healer, but it's really somebody who's going to take a stand for truth in their own life. And then they give people the permission to do the same that are around them.
Hey, just jumping in here because you're probably like me and you don't get outside nearly enough. We're designed to be outside because, like you've heard me say many times on the show, food and light and sound and shape and color, these are all forms of information and energy in our body that we need exposure to. And light is one of those. The full spectrum of natural light is essential for the cells in your body to work properly. In fact, did you know that your sleep is actually determined by the amount of quality light that your eyes and your skin receive during the day? That's right. Different times of the day actually are different light frequencies, just like different vitamins in different foods. Different light frequencies during the day have different beneficial effects to the body. So, what is a solution? Like me, you probably have to be inside most of the day. Sauna Space. I found this amazing company after looking for a long time for a home sauna. They have portable units that can go in small spaces. Some of the benefits of a home sauna is detoxification, skin and collagen production, anti-aging, mold, fungus, virus reduction, pain relief, helps your immune system, helps decrease stress, increase your mood, and most importantly, like I said, increases your ability to sleep. You know, I do the sauna late at night sometimes, and oftentimes I don't feel like it. I'm tired, and I'm so glad I did it. I feel so much better. You're getting the light therapy as well as the sweat heat therapy. So it's a double whammy. I love it. It's been a game changer for me. You can get yours by going to my website under the recommended products page and enter the coupon code FitAmyTV5. That's FITAMY TV5 at checkout and save 5%. Enjoy. Tell us about how you actually establish those boundaries, Josh, because, starting, your pivot of your career, the two young kids, or at least get the second on the way, you just
Yeah.
moved, you're the CEO, you got so much going on. And you said the answers are inside of you. Okay, yes, obviously I need to get more sleep as Josh, right? I
Yeah.
know I need to go work out and not just put my email aside for a minute. This is common stuff a lot of us go through, right? But how did you finally establish the boundary when you did have all these responsibilities and urgent pressing issues? Like how did you find that place?
I'm still finding it.
Uh,
I mean, I'm definitely still finding it. Like
yeah.
I'm super at the end of my rope right now on this podcast. I mean, I'm showing up. I'm loving being here. I'm loving our connection. And I hope that this my ultimate hope is that my realness brings some oxygen into people that maybe just need to take a deep breath
Yeah.
about where they are in their life through my words. But I'm still finding the boundaries of my life and of how to take on not too little, not too much. I feel like I'm always chasing the elusive Goldilocks zone, the Goldilocks story
Yeah.
with the porridge, not too hot, not too cold. So,
Yeah.
so right now I'm in a season of head down, gas pedal to the floor work to prepare for what's coming, right? With the new baby and the travel and the additional finance and just the additional expansion of the container, like that's hollowing out a part of myself that I didn't know that I could hollow out, but I'm holding a really strong shovel and I'm doing my best. And so when it gets to an appropriate time where my body starts giving me feedback, like inflammation, biomarkers off, weight gain, things like that, I better listen right now. Like I'm listening now. Like
Yeah.
in 3 or 4 days, it will be a decompression. It will be a boundary setting. But I push the envelope on that because I have big dreams. I have a big purpose. And I'm always trying to figure out, Amy, with a big dream and a big purpose, how do I strive for it, but yet still be in flow to the demands of the modern world and my own demands of my physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial health? How
That's
do
it.
I do it all? And the last thing I'll say is I'll never forget this. When I got I got the gift of a psychic break in a very painful, soul gut wrenching ayahuasca ceremony, which now my time with ayahuasca is complete. But when I had my journey and I went way beyond the veil and I had an entity come into my body and I didn't know what to do for a month. It was a month and the thoughts wouldn't go away and the entity was real for me. I didn't know who else to turn to. So I turned to Paul.
Of course. He's done it
And he,
for many.
and he was at the Heaven House and I came to him and he helped me do this healing process. And he said, well, entities only live in spaces where there's space for them to be. So there's obviously something about you that wanted to be healed. 2 years later, I knew exactly what it was, right? It was my addiction to pornography. It was my addiction to massive control. It was all the lack of forgiveness I had had to myself and others. It was all the energetic cords of poor boundaries where I cared about other people before myself. All of these things started to come forth.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, before I left his house, this is like the beginning of a 2-year healing process for me. He's like, well, what is it really? Like, what is the thing that's causing you the most pain? Like, what is it? And I looked at him and I said, how do I do it all? How do I do it all? And he's like, how do you do what? And I said, how do I have the wife, the children? This is before I had children. How do I have wife and children and business and health and How do I do it all? And he grabbed me by the shoulder and he looked at me and he said, well, who's doing it anyway?
Mhm.
And I wasn't really ready for it at the time, but I understood later on that I was the one who was doing it. My connection to God through me, my connection to God in me, my experience as a soul here on planet Earth, I was the one who was doing it, who was creating it all. And so it really
True.
became this spiritual maturation process where I had to be honest about what in my life wasn't working. And it was the pornography addiction. It was the um, terrible ways that I talked to myself. It was the ways that I hid in the shadows of my own self for fear that if I came out and talked about things that were really troubling me, that somehow I would be seen as less of a leader. Somehow I would be seen as less of a real human being and not trustworthy, which actually in paradox, it's the other fucking way around. Like the more that we share the journey combined with true wisdom, I think there are some people out there, Amy, that they just share, but they don't have any wisdom. But if we can combine true wisdom and life experience with vulnerability that's real, and we all know what vulnerability is when it's real because you can feel it. You can feel it in your heart, in your bones, when somebody's being vulnerable versus strategic vulnerability, which is
Strategic.
the
Yeah.
whole spiritual world, these
Yeah.
fucking charlatans that just
Yeah.
preach spirituality, but they're not spiritual. So that
Hashtag vulnerability. It's like, really?
if you need to tell
Wow.
somebody you're
Yeah,
about to be
exactly.
vulnerable, then you're
Exactly.
probably not being that
Mhm.
vulnerable. So that's really what the boundary setting, because your initial question was, how does the boundary
Mm.
get set? The boundary gets set by the pain of experiencing what happens when you go so far beyond the boundary that you lose your fucking soul and you lose the connection to yourself. And so it's in coming home to reestablish that boundary that I think we become a true warrior. I think we become a mature man or woman in this world.
Mhm. And you and Paul hit the nail on the head. Ultimately, you are the puppeteer. Who's the one pulling all these strings on who? Like
I'm doing
that's
it.
what, yeah, it's like that's what we have to always remind ourselves of. We, should ourselves and put all this stuff on ourselves. And it's like if we step back and look at it that way, that's just a very beautiful way to look at it. Josh, I'm just curious with the boundary thing. A lot of times self-love comes up when we talk about boundaries or lack of boundaries, or did you personally ever have an issue with that? Was that involved in your equation at all? Like, having strong self-love to be able to put that emotional boundary down, or was that not on the table for you?
Don't you already know the answer?
It's kind of
I
a leading
mean,
question.
well, okay, so the ultimate answer is yes. And then there's so many layers behind that, right?
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate the pace of your question because it's like self-love is, I think, the most needed, but yet also the most misunderstood thing in the world, really. Because,
True.
if self-love was a light switch, wouldn't we all just walk over to the wall and flick it?
Hell yeah.
And essentially it is that simple. But
Hmm.
just because something simple has no reference point to it always being easy,
Oh, hell no.
right? Because if it is that easy, which is another freaking paradox, right? It is actually that easy. I can sit here with you and I can say, no matter what my ego tells me, no matter what my wounding tells me, no matter what my trauma tells me, no matter what my brother, sister, mother, grandfather, society, social media, Instagram, no matter what any of these fucking people or this shit tells me, I can tell myself, even if it doesn't feel vibrationally true, I can still say, I love you. I love you, Josh. I
Hmm.
love you, Amy. I love you guys. And I can just keep saying that over and over and over again. At some point, the stuff that's blocking it way deep down inside of me, the beliefs that I've been imprinted with from others, or the things that I unconsciously believe about myself, if I practice self-love for long enough, that shit will bubble up. It will come up. And so for me, when I started the forgiveness process real deep, by the way, in 2018, what really came up for me was a lot of shame around my past sexual behavior. And I realized that my shame of my past sexual behavior was tied to shame about the way that my physical body looked and anger towards the feminine about being rejected when I was young, because, quote, the girls would always go to like the more fit guys.
Mhm.
And so I was very angry at the feminine, which came out sideways in my sexual promiscuity in my 20s and early 30s. And
Mhm.
I really had to take stock of all the things that I've done in this world, like watching pornographic scenes that really just fed a dark hole in my soul, really were eroticizing my wounds, were not really healing me. They were just exacerbating the stuff that really was asking for forgiveness. And
Mm.
also taking a deep look at, the ways that I was bullied, and forgiving my transgressors when I was bullied in school, um, forgiving people that had wronged me, like real deep betrayal in life, from men and from women. And then also taking stock of my poor decisions with my finance, with my relationships. Like, life is kind of like a big ball of missed takes, missed
Mm.
takes. And
Missed. Yeah.
and the more that I can look at them like they were actually just missed takes instead of mistakes, like
Yeah.
learning lessons that I missed that take. Okay. That was like a deep 2-year process. And honestly, the hits keep coming. And
Of
we
course.
we all make
While you're
mistakes.
alive.
And yeah, so like part of my journey into self-love is loving myself during all my seasons. My seasons where right now I'm carrying probably a good 20 pounds extra weight than what I feel most comfortable and most healthy at. But also, I've been in the process of rapidly expanding my business,
Your
holding
family.
space as the sole provider for my woman and for my child and another on the way, and paying for the food and the table of 5 staff members. Like, shit's real, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Shit gets real, right? So we do the best we can. And so I can even have compassionate understanding for myself now to look back and say, wow, how could you have handled that differently, Josh? To love yourself more through the process of added responsibility, so that your physical body did not have to suffer. Because
Mm.
that's really why this is happening. I mean, you and I are in the public spotlight all the time, right? So it's no surprise that I'm heavier. And so I'm not saying that from a place of shame. It's just an honest public inventory of like, okay, things get to shift now.
Mm-hmm.
Things get to shift now. So I'm excited about the road ahead, and taking time off and having more spaciousness to breathe. And um, it was a fairly long answer to your question, but it's a deep ass question.
It's a beautiful answer. And thank you for your honesty. That's just so powerful. It's so wonderful to sit down with someone who's just so honest, but kind of kind of owning it and okay with it, and not having like an edge to it, like that. It's really and you can feel the motivation. You're not saying it for sympathy or anything. Like, you're just being really real, and I know your heart is with the hopes that you're going to help someone else help themselves be real. And I know that's
Yeah.
why I'm vulnerable about things that are, very hard for me to, because I'm naturally a very private person. It doesn't come naturally to me to share the deepest, darkest things, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but whenever I do choose to be vulnerable, although whenever I get behind this damn microphone, I seem to forget that the whole world is hearing it. It's like, oh, it's just you and me, Josh. No, but anyway, you know how that is. But
Yeah.
my point is, it's just so beautiful when someone is vulnerable, because it's just, you're just being real, and I think you have to also be out of it, like, kind of like, it's behind you a little bit, to be able to have that perspective to speak of it from that vantage point, which I
Yes.
feel like you have,
Yes.
and I just want to put a pen in you saying the seasons of life. This is so critically important, um, at the risk of being sexist, particularly for women, because I know for me, as I used to be a fitness model. I mean, that was a while ago, and I'm different now, and it's just, I have to be okay with that. I still feel like I'm quite fit, but I have to be okay with that. And I now have 2 little puppies. Uh, where is my workout time? Like, where the hell did that go? And and with the other one on the way, I mean, obviously, like you said, you're putting on and I had to get in my own space, Josh, about giving myself a break. And it's one thing to have high standards, and like you said, the whole premise of your business is to have full cylinders going at all times. I mean, sure, that's a great ideal, but you're also wise enough to know that that every now and then you're going to have to give a little more here and take a little more there, and it has to be okay. We all have to find places in ourselves of, this is a season in my life. I have puppies. My workouts are going to suffer, or something has to suffer, and I have to kind of choose my priorities, I guess, of, okay, Is so much time from my work going to suffer? Maybe my meal prep or whatever it is, my social time, and hopefully I can spread it out that, not just one avenue of my life is going to suffer. But I just think that's a very important concept for people to remind themselves. You might be in a season right now, and that's okay.
I'm going to say something that's probably an unpopular opinion, especially in the holistic world.
Good.
If some if
Please.
if someone would have came to me when I was somewhere between the ages of 18 and 24, and they said to me, "Hey, this is me, your future self. This is me, your future mentor. This is me, your future teacher, coming to you with a message that will impact the quality of your life forever.
Mm,
Will you listen?" If they said it to me like that, I would have listened. And the
absolutely.
message I would have said to them was this: if you do not find enjoyment, creativity, and a thriving fire of passion towards becoming financially sovereign in your lifetime, you will suffer in perpetuity. And I believe that because a lot of people, they think as long as I'm taking care of my body, as long as I have a sound mind, as long as I have a roof overhead and water to drink, and yes, but guess what? We don't live with the Native Americans anymore. We don't live in nature anymore. We live in buildings and houses, and all of these things cost money. We've signed up to be here on planet Earth at this time. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So we all chose to be here and participate in a broken financial economic system. And so, really, if you want to talk about truly thriving and maybe what's part of Aphrodite actually awakening is, and that's for men and women, the awakening
Yes.
is for all of us to take radical responsibility with our money, because money is energy and money in our society represents time. I do not pass judgment on people that receive inheritance or funding. These are all beautiful things because it's their dharma to receive it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have received it, right? I celebrate when people are gifted things or when they earn lots of money. But here's the last point is that how I earn my money and how I hold my money and the energy I put into my finances, they can either eat me alive or they can feed other people.
Hmm.
And so that is a huge point of topic and contention where in true paradox, again, I feel like this is the 10th paradox, Amy, that we're exploring here on your podcast. But in
Life is
another
full
true
of them.
paradox,
Yep.
in another true paradox, it's like, okay, without money, without true financial sovereignty, and I'm talking like recurring revenue where you
Yep.
don't have to chase down dollars anymore.
Yep.
We've all been there. We've
Or
all been in that
you're
place.
trading dollars for time.
You're trading dollars
Yep.
for time.
Hmm.
Without true empowered financial sovereignty,
You're
good
leveraging.
luck
Hmm.
finding your purpose, good luck living your purpose, good luck supporting others, good luck being a head of household, good luck being a provider. It ain't going to happen.
Good luck
Now,
having a low stress life. Hmm.
good luck buying the supplements, healthy organic food,
Hmm.
EMF free home, good luck
Hmm.
buying any of the biohacking tools, good
Yep.
luck buying any of this. And then the last paradox, which is maybe the 11th paradox, is like the way in which I earn that money and the way in which I call in that money and hold that money, it is just as important as the other things that I must tend to. God's spirit did not give us an easy path here. For some people, I think they're learning how to break out of the matrix, as am I every
Yep.
day.
Yep.
And I think the matrix is really lack. It's the stories we've believed that we can't hold it all, that we can't do it all. And I'm honestly looking forward to the day when I can earn that place of financial full sovereignty and truly be of service to others. Because I think, at least because of my upbringing and because of how I was brought into the world and poverty consciousness, my children will not know poverty. They will not know. They will stress about other things. They will stress about their heart's expression, about their artistic endeavors. They will have their own stress and their own dharma. But as long as I have any power to change it, my children will not worry with these sacral chakra lack financial bullshit stories that all of us have been drinking for the past thousands of years. This money's been in control. So I think that's really important, Amy. And that's why people in the spiritual world a lot of times are broke, because they have beautiful, loving, amazing hearts, but they just have not taken full responsibility to have true financial intelligence in their life.
I'm so glad that we got this in because that was one of the main points I wanted to talk to you about today, Josh. And you just encapsulated it perfectly because, as you mentioned at the very beginning, your 5 pillar system. And I, like you, I'm all about the mental health component primarily, but I love that you go into the financial, and that makes you truly unique in the space. I'm sure not the only one, but definitely unique because most don't, you know?
Yeah,
And you're absolutely critical because I've even heard you say that, the opposite of disease is ease, and money brings ease. I'm paraphrasing, but basically,
sure. Yeah.
but the other thing I want to add too, whether it be trust funders or winning lotteries or whatever it may be,
I
really high.
celebrate those people.
Yeah, I see. I think that's very wise because it's
Yeah.
almost like the person who doesn't have a relationship that gets jealous or pissed at seeing other people in a good one. It's like you want, right?
But
Well, I've done that. I'm
in my
guilty.
own
Guilty.
defense,
Yeah, of
I
course.
have
But
absolutely projected
sure.
jealousy and
Of
judgment on
course.
those
Of
who
course.
I think have received more. And I've gone through the emotional ladder on that to come to the other side and realize, well, if they can have it, so can I.
Again, and that's why I'm bringing it up. And
Yeah.
certainly I am the most guilty of all that. And to this day, I have to sometimes remind myself when I'm doing that and instead reframe it like, no, this is the universe showing you what's possible, or bringing you energetically that much closer to it for yourself because it's now in your awareness space.
That's right.
So it's a reframe, and money's the same way because the thing I've seen, and I know people with a lot of money, I know people with no money, and money's just a magnifier. It's like you just take the person and give them either more money or less money. It's almost like stress. It's like you really see what people are made of when they're under stress, right? It's
Totally.
like, who do you want to be in the
Totally.
foxhole with, right?
Yeah.
And when the chips are down, like what people are really made of. It's like when you squeeze a carton of orange juice, what comes out of it? Is it, grapefruit juice or is it, when things get squeezed, what's on the inside.
Can I say
So
one more thing about
please,
money?
yes, please.
We could do a whole podcast on money. Oh my God, my journey with money. Maybe you feel the same way in certain ways. Look at what money truly is. Like, okay, this phone, this light switch,
Yeah.
a hammer, a memory chip, headphone, they all serve a purpose, right? So I could kill someone with a hammer. I could kill someone, or I could build a beautiful planter box.
Love
Was it
that
the hammer's
analogy.
fault? So what I think is going on is
Mm.
part of our evolution of consciousness has been unconscious capitalism. It's been an unconscious model where people's chi is leveraged in the name of the almighty dollar, but it's not the almighty dollar. What's almighty is the heart and the intention behind anything we do. That's the almighty. And the almighty is abused, and the almighty is appropriated in the name of self-service or of greed. So money or a hammer or the phone, they're all freaking tools. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to, when I was growing up on welfare, Amy, I had so much resentment and so much jealousy when I would stand in the special line in the cafeteria because everybody knew I got lunch for free. And I felt their judgment and I felt their pity.
Wow.
And I can still feel that now, but it doesn't drive me. That doesn't drive me to earn money now. What drives me to earn money now is the fact that I know it's possible. And just the very fact that I know right now, the law of attraction is working. And right now, the law of one is working. And right now, if I go against those two laws, and there's 9 more, but if I go against those two laws, then all I'm doing is slowing what is already mine. I'm slowing what is rightfully mine if I push against and reject those things. And the very last wrap up on money
Wow.
is this.
Wow.
I think there are spiritual people that are abusing the concept of money, and they're doing it in selfish, greedy ways. This whole like money mindset and, scared money doesn't make money, and all these phrases that people are using in the coaching industry to basically guilt and shame clients to pay them money because they have all the answers. It's bullshit.
Wow.
Money is a equal opportunity employer. You can earn it from a place of love and abundance and help other people, or you can work for the Federal Reserve, push a key on a keypad, and change the lives of millions of people just because you can, because our sick society has vested these people at the Federal Reserve and the federal government to literally change lives with the touch of a keyboard and make people suffer, because that's the society, the collective agreement that we've agreed upon here in the United States and really across the world. But do you see what I mean? It's all just a tool. We've all agreed that tool, we've agreed that the Fed can do that. So I agree here with you that I will be a multimillionaire and I will serve lots of people and I will have great health, because that's what I feel with you in this space. And if that feeling changes, that's my work to look at that. Why does that feeling change?
And I think what the beauty of this is too, like you said, we all incarnated at this time, and how lucky we are that this is the great awakening. This is it. We are now at the peak of the mountain of which way are we going to go. And the
Yes.
beauty of the pandemic is that for people, and obviously I'm speaking for myself, but I know there's a lot of other people, it made me get educated about our economy, about the world financial system, about commerce. I wouldn't have had any motivation to do so, and I would have been thinking the fiat currency was legit and something that was able to be backed up by the government. And he's like, I don't trust the government when it comes to health or anything else. Why the freak would I
I
trust
don't
them when
trust
it
the government with anything.
there you go. So, but what I'm saying is, it was part of a big wake up call for me to get educated about money and the economy, and what happened when we went off the gold standard in '71 with Nixon, and the whole thing is just a sham. And where it's going now, I mean, we've produced more money with inflation in the economy in the last year than we have like in the last 20 years. It's just hopefully people are taking this time to educate themselves. The veil has been lifted as to
Yeah.
what is really going on. We see the wizard behind the curtain, and what are you going to do about it? Because
You know
it's
what
a
the wizard, you know what the wizard behind the curtain has been saying, Amy?
what?
The wizard behind the curtain says,
Trust me.
go to college, get a
Oh,
good job,
mm,
white picket fence,
mm.
get good grades, do what your parents
Pay
say,
your taxes.
pay your taxes, be a good little
Save,
boy and girl,
save your money. That's how you'll be
save your
rich.
money for a rainy
Lie.
day. It's all
Mm-hmm.
absolute vomit bullshit. It's
Exactly.
all fucking bullshit.
Thank you.
It's actually the opposite of everything that they're saying. Don't be a
You're right.
good boy and little girl. Don't save your money, invest your money, learn how to move your money so it makes money for you, learn how to be a sovereign human being. Otherwise, you will be devoured alive, and so will all the generations that come after you. That's why poverty keeps going, is
And
because
I'll
people
say
don't change.
it's the parallel message as it is to the health message. But like with the whole COVID thing, it's like do exactly the opposite of what they're telling us to do.
That's right.
Go in the sunshine, be with people, get your
Hug people.
emotional fitness needs met. Yeah, hug people. I mean,
Yeah.
we could go on and on, but it's a parallel message, which I'm just so glad you touched on, Josh, because I think that's your work is so important for so many reasons, but that is truly a critical piece, particularly for now, because I hate to say it, but the wheels are coming off this thing, guys. And this is why you need to have access to a commodity that really can sustain you and your family, something that's tangible.
Yeah.
Because there's been no society in the history of the world that has ever survived a fiat currency. The main thing to remember is this is a celebration. This is a good thing. We don't have to be afraid. We can be grateful that we have the opportunity to empower ourselves to do something now, because we can see the storm is going to be coming. So prepare now, like winter is coming. Don't be afraid, just be smart and take steps.
You have rational fear. There's irrational fear, which nobody, like society hates. Society really hates weak men.
Mm-hmm.
We have to touch on that.
Please.
Society despises weak men.
Of course.
So we have this push for, because what you're saying is true, right? There's underpinnings of the storm that's coming, and you're right. So let me ask you, like, if you're on a boat and it was a storm outside, would you want a captain that breathed and that knew how to weather the storm? Or would you want a captain that said, oh my God, let's feel our feelings and let's sit in the center of the boat and pray to God that God takes the wheel?
100%.
You'd want a captain with
Number
experience
one.
who could regulate his emotions. Harry Styles wearing a dress on magazines. Lil Nas wearing underwear, dancing on the lap of the devil, men being feminized, men being told that their aggression or their testosterone is shameful, the absolute disgusting demonic agenda of the mainstream media and everything that's happening in our world to feminize men and to masculinize women is so disgusting, to the point where my children will never touch a public school. They will never go on regular devices. They will be screened. I don't care. And I don't care if they rebel against me either. Like, I'm the guardian, I'm the shepherd of their life. And unless all of us as parents and as men and women take responsibility for our own life and what we're consuming and what we believe about ourselves, do you think that our kids are going to do any different? They're just going to follow our lead. And then we're going to have a bunch of kids, while China and Russia has their, 4 to 18-year-olds doing push-ups and training with M16s. We're sitting over here wondering if a transgender woman should wear pink lipstick or blue lipstick while they pet their puppy on TikTok. Like, the difference could not be more abysmal about like the true disgust that I feel, and so many of us feel, about what is happening to men and women and gender and masculine, feminine energy in America. Like, that's what's really going on.
And don't think for a minute, folks, that this isn't purposefully being done to try to feminize men, because why would the powers that be want the men in society to have the gumption to stand up?
Because
They
then they
don't
can
want the
fight.
men to, right. I mean, they don't want the
Yeah.
men to stand up, because otherwise they won't be able to do what the hell they want, right? So everyone is freaking confused. This is so comforting to hear a man say this. I know you're not alone. I think it's beautiful. Hey, everybody, hope you're enjoying the show. A lot of people have trouble sleeping. Whatever the reason may be, it's a problem. Sleep is the most important ingredient for your health, and just not only your physical health, but your mental health as well. And I have my friend Wade Lightheart here from my favorite supplement company, Bioptimizers, to talk about their amazing #1 selling product, Magnesium Breakthrough, and why actually magnesium is important in order to get good sleep.
I call magnesium the miracle mineral. It's involved in over 300 processes in the body. And unfortunately, it is extremely deficient since we moved into kind of conventional, as they call it, or mass farming. And we've stripped the soil of this essential nutrient. And we often augment our diets with high levels of calcium, and they exist in a 2-to-1 ratio. So magnesium deficiency is probably the most common deficiency. There's also ample evidence to demonstrate that electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic pollution also accelerates our requirements for magnesium inside the body. And so when we started looking at magnesium, I went through a stressful period of my time and was disrupted in my sleep. And when I did some testing, I was deficient in magnesium. Now, I look back at the great Charles Poliquin, who coached Olympic gold medalists in 27 different sports. And he identified that he was using 4 different types of magnesium to offset the training loads and stress that Olympic athletes and professional athletes were under. And so Matt and I decided, well, let's get into the research and see what we can find. And all the research had different types of magnesium, which kind of left us to like, well, which magnesium is better? And so we did a very unsophisticated thing, is we just bought all magnesiums and began testing them. And then we took those tests eventually to our research team in Croatia. We have 19 PhDs and master students who are running a barrage of tests until we could determine what would be the best formulation without breaking the GI barrier where you get the runs, and how to optimize that so you get the most amount of magnesium to the most amount of body parts. Because when you see magnesium orotate or malate or whatever, what the heckalate, what you're really looking at is the bonding of that magnesium, and that's going to determine where it's absorbed and utilized by the body. So to get the full benefit of magnesium, we want it to have a full spectrum. And so we have 7 different types of magnesium in that formulation so that you get magnesium to the parts of your body that actually need it. And what that means is you take less to get more. In other words, there's a variety of things that magnesium can help with. Stress, relaxation response, that's why people cramp, magnesium in deficiencies oftentimes. Also vasodilation, so things like migraine headaches, the problems from PMS, heart arrhythmias, blood sugar metabolism, the development of neurotransmitters in your body. All of these things require the miracle mineral of magnesium, and we're the only company that provides all 7 with the elements of humic, fulvic acid, manganese, and B6 that make sure that you get the maximum dosage in your cells where you need it, so it doesn't end up in your toilet.
So brilliant. That's why it's your #1 selling product. I use multiple of your products every single day because everything in BioOptimizers is the best. It's the best quality. It works. It's healthy. It's a company with a mission that cares about people, and it's what drives you. And the magnesium breakthrough is one of my favorite. I know it helps me with my mood and with exercise. You know, you're burning through magnesium when you're using your muscles, and that's very important. Sweating. It helps with bone health, and like you mentioned, sleep and stress. It's just a critical mineral that we don't have enough of. So you can supplement your diet with it, with this amazing magnesium breakthrough, and enter the coupon code AmyF10 at checkout, and you can even save 10%. You know, you do a lot of work with men. You do men's groups. Tell us, as we get toward the end here, do you feel that, is this a common sentiment that you're hearing in your circles of men? Where are men at? Or is it maybe like you're preaching to the choir because the men in your men's group are men like you that are trying to be conscious? I mean, what are your thoughts on that idea?
The idea of men being feminized specifically.
Yes, and men
Yeah,
and people being gender confused, and
sure.
because of course men, you know, I feel like regardless of gender, everyone wants to be a good person to
Yeah.
live the your lifestyle of, you know, all 5 pillars. But they're confused because they're being told by this one, well, you need to be in your feelings more and you need to be more sensitive. But at the same time, you got to bring home the bacon and you got to weather the storm on the ship and keep shit together and hold space for your feminine and be the mountain when she's coming at you with the storm. So they're like, well, which one do I do? So if they're too soft in their feelings, the woman loses respect and like he's
Oh
mushy. Like
God.
nobody likes the nice guy, right? They all want to be with the bad boy, but the bad boy treats them like shit. It's like everyone is so freaking confused. You know,
Yeah.
it's like what is your take on what is the pulse of men today?
What men are being demanded to cultivate now
Yep.
is range and
Ah,
capacity,
nice.
because that encapsulates everything you just said, right?
Okay.
So, like Jung wrote about the anima and the animus for a reason, the shadows of masculine and feminine that we don't know, the unconscious incompetence on the model to unconscious competence when we don't even know why we know something. So yeah, like in the middle of that, what men are being called to is to develop a more hollow, fertile ground of capacity and range to truly hold and to deal with the ever present demands of not just the feminine, but also society and the world. And so it's not about men being too feminine or too masculine. It's about a man switching power to know how to go between the two. And most importantly, how to be the arbiter of when it's absolutely appropriate to be in their feminine or in their masculine. And when I say that, it's like, it's an interesting phrase because, you know, within Aphrodite, there's masculine and feminine. Within Eros, there's masculine and feminine. Within all the Greek gods and goddesses, there's masculine and feminine. That otherwise we wouldn't be whole and complete. But within me, there's a part that I am irritated, I am angered, I am saddened by what I'm seeing in the world, because not only is the conversation about anima and animus and masculine and feminine not being had outside of this podcast too often, but what's really happening is not only is that being pushed aside, but we are unfortunately raising a generation that doesn't know they don't know, that are being taught to be incredibly feminine on the male side and incredibly masculine. You know, that's where the term hashtag boss bitch came from. You
Oh,
don't need a man, you don't want to have kids, focus on your career and fuck everything else. That's a core tenet of communism that infiltrates into the mind of young women. And then you have women that get older and they're like, okay. And by the way, like everyone has their own path. Not all men and not all women are meant to be parents or have children, right? It
mhm.
is what it is. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is like, unless we have people that are wanting families and wanting divine partnership and wanting to birth, then it's going to be really, really challenging for men to have that capacity. Because why else would men do anything? We're not
Yeah.
here just to serve each other as men. We're here to serve women. We're here to serve women. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve women, and we're here to live out our purpose in life if we are so called to be a divine partner in union, or a father in a marriage, or a sacred union. So I think that's what the men that comes to my group, or just honestly that I strive to be, is a man that has range and capacity to know when to be in his emotions and nurturing, and to know when to cut with a razor and get shit done. That's what a woman wants. A woman wants a good man with an edge. That's what Matthew Hussey said, at least. I loved it. I was like, yeah, women want a good man with an edge. They don't want a softy melting ice cream cone, but they also don't want a knuckle dragging Neanderthal. They want something in the middle. Y'all feminine make it hard on us.
Good description. I love that so much. I always say on my show, it's about having the discretion to know when to be on one polarity and the other, because it's going to always be a
Oh,
flow between the two.
so
Discretion is the
good.
key.
It's so
And,
good.
that is just so well said. And again, very comforting for me to hear. Um, thank you. It's super, super powerful.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just kind of taking that in. It's just, again, it's just refreshing. I don't hear that perspective a lot,
People
but
are afraid. Men are afraid to
yes,
speak out.
yes.
Women are
Mm-hmm.
afraid to say, I don't actually want a gushy, melty ice cream cone. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're because women, they don't want to show weakness now, because they've
Mm-hmm.
been, especially with the rise of feminism. I did a solo cast recently on feminism, and
Mm.
I did a solo cast recently on gender dysphoria. And in both of those podcasts, it was very, very, I mean, I presented research, I
Mm-hmm.
presented data, I presented lessons. And at the end of the day, like, we've strayed so far away from how nature intended,
Mm-hmm.
in the way that men and women lovingly relate to each other. And it's
Yes.
all been by design. It has absolutely
Yes.
all been by design. And so it is up to us
Because
to
it
reclaim.
disempowers. It disempowers us.
That's right. We've got
Mm-hmm.
to reclaim it. And,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's what awakening, like, let me ask you this. I've never thought about this. Awakening Aphrodite. Like,
Yes.
what is that to you? What does that
Well,
even mean to you?
for me, it's very subjective. I mean, you asked, I was going to ask you, and then when you
Oh,
ask, if you ask anybody, everyone has their own, because it's all relative to where you're at in that
yeah.
polarity range, right? So that's why I named my show it, because I was way over masculinized. I was the
Mm,
woman you were just explaining, the woman that thought I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing, and really identify with my father to be daddy's girl and get the approval by, I grew up in New England, the Puritan work ethic that, if you're not bleeding from the eyeballs, you're really not working hard enough, and you're not really doing something of value, and something you can be proud of in the world. So,
yeah.
just push through it. So I lived the first half of my life with my feminine basically shut down. And, there were other issues as well that we won't get into today, but um, so for me today, it's about trust is always the big word that comes up for me. Trusting Great Spirit, trusting the flow, trusting the timing, trusting. I do feel in the last 3 years, I've worked so much on myself. I do trust myself. I can honestly say I do trust myself now.
Yeah.
I'm very solid in that, which is beautiful. But the having the boundary, I guess the self-love is the Aphrodite thing, is taking that 90-minute 2 hour break in the middle of the day to have lunch and go outside with my dogs, even though I've got emails need to be replied to. And so
I know.
that for me, all those are the real tangible things of how I awaken Aphrodite, in the day to day. But it can change too. I mean, it like we said, everything has a season. How about for you?
I think for me, it is this ever changing understanding that whatever I say that I want, whatever I declare that I want, that there's a price to be paid for that.
Mm.
There's a price of maturity to be paid for that. And it's a constant introspection of, if I say that I want something big, a life purpose, a family, like if I want it all, then can I be humble enough to and mature enough to look at what the price actually is, and can I be honest with myself if at my current level of consciousness and maturation that I can actually pay the price for what is owed, and that I'm not grasping at straws, and that I'm being honest with myself. Like, one of the things I always have said, and I haven't said it in a while, so it's really beautiful that I can just say it right now. Um, when I pray and I haven't prayed in a couple weeks. That's me being real. Like I really haven't connected with God in a couple weeks. But now that I'm here, when I want to connect with God, I will always say, God, allow me to be the most humble to whatever I am supposed to hear. And please allow me the consciousness to hear it. Like, let me please have the most humility I can to receive whatever I'm supposed to receive. And please allow me to have the consciousness so that I may take it in and I may do something with it. And so that's been a lot of like our podcast today, you know, the back and forth of like, what is being asked and what is the price for that? And like the honest inventory process. I think that's how you really become a radical human being. I think that's how you awaken a God, is by honesty and humility and desire. You know, combine all three in a blender, see what comes out. I don't know, it might be really cool.
And be ready for however that answer is going to come to you, because sometimes it's the dark night of the soul. You know, I know for me, sometimes when I've asked for the things that I thought I really wanted in, you know, how, like my affirmation for this year, my intention for this year, 2023, I actually did a solo cast on this, is I now embody the goddess in me. And to have that come about was a shitstorm, because it meant I really, you know, it wasn't that easy, because it meant I had to have that boundary and I had to really, you know, put things in place and take more time for this and that and the other. It wasn't easy to do. And so sometimes when your prayers get answered, it kind of sucks for a while, because you have to grow, you have to expand. It's going to be changed to you, and that can be uncomfortable or not fun. So thanks for answering my prayer on that one, but you know, it did get answered.
Yeah, it was
So
beautiful.
powerful stuff. Josh, how can people find more about you, learn about your 5 pillars, find out about your amazing podcast and your amazing blog, your store? Where can we go?
The best place to go is joshtrent.com/podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just go on Spotify and type in Josh Trent, or just go on DuckDuckGo and type in Josh Trent or Brave.
I
and
like
then,
you didn't use the G word for search.
yeah, or go there too, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they all are out there in like the Technium's ether.
You'll come up.
So, yeah. So thank you, Amy.
Okay. And the last thing you want to leave with your kids? Final thought. What would it be for your 2 kids from Daddy Josh?
Oh, like if they watch this 50 years from now?
Or just in general, at this point in your life, what would you like them to know?
Listen to the breadcrumbs that you feel, that you hear, and know that you're always loved, you're always supported, and you're always on the right path.
Oh.
Oh.
Josh Trent, thank you so much for being on Awakening Aphrodite. Everybody, if you enjoyed the show, please check out the show notes to find out more about Josh. Check out his amazing podcast, which I love myself. And if you want to support me, subscribe, share the show. And
Subscribe, y'all.
Yeah, take it to the next level. Leave a review, would be amazing. It only takes a minute. Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's AMYFOURNIER.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com. and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also Fit Amy TV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.